Episode 24 of the World of FPGA podcast. Have you ever asked yourself what happens during FPGA synthesis? In this episode, I try to give an answer. Welcome to the World of FPGA podcast. I'm your host, David Kirchner, and I will lead you through the world of FPGA. And now, let's begin. It doesn't depend if you are an FPGA beginner or an intermediate. Sometimes you got stuck at a simple question. This was for me as I was asked, what is FPGA synthesis? So today I'll give you an idea what happens while this process is running. In general, synthesis is the step that maps VHDL or Verilog code to a netlist. This netlist is technology dependent. So, a small excursion. What is a netlist? Electrical engineers know netlist very well. In electronic development, a netlist describes the connection between pins of components. In FPGA development, a netlist describes the connection between flip-flops, lookup tables, and I/O pins. Now we can understand why netlists are technology dependent. It is possible to write independent netlists, but then a lot of features will not be used. Think about lookup tables with 4, 5, 6, 7 or even 8 inputs. A big difference between different FPGA manufacturers or even from one manufacturer between different FPGA parts. And now back to the main topic, the synthesis tool. This software responsible for performing synthesis is called a synthesis tool. Well, so far so good. This tool often is manufacturer dependent, for example from AMD, Lattice or Altera. But there are also solutions from other companies like Synopsys, Mentor or Cadence. The synthesis tool evaluates the VHDL code and then determines how to realize the specific logic using the available primitives on the target FPGA. The initial substep of synthesis is elaboration. Elaboration. This serves as an opening phase of the synthesis process within the FPGA implementation design flow. In this stage, the synthesis tool examines the VHDL code to identify descriptions of standard logic components, for example, as flip-flops or multiplexers. And the result of the elaboration phase is a netlist that is independent of technology. After that, this netlist will be matched to technology-dependent elements. Here are some examples. You are using a matrix or a vector of other kind as a vector of vectors in your code, and it could be result in a blockgram. You're using a multiplication sign in a line in your code, and this can result in a DSP cell. A Boolean function will move into lookup tables. Clock-dependent processes leads to flip-flops, and so on. I guess you now have a little idea. A better synthesis tool will use FPGA elements more efficient. There are also potential constraints that the system must consider. Besides the netlist, also different reports are generated. And that is the magic of synthesis. And the idea for the next episode is we will look there into the implementation. So, further information can be found at world-of-fpga.com/WFP024. If you found this episode helpful, please rate it on Apple Podcasts and share it with your colleagues and friends. That's the end of today's podcast episode. Thank you for listening and for your attention. So I say goodbye here next time, your David Kirchner.